All right, so it's time to write our first Java program. And the first thing I need to do is figure out where to write the code. Well, there's lots of different places. There's no place in particular you have to write your source code. You can write it in Notepad. Notepad++ is a very simple text editor. Or you can use something fancier like an IDE. You can use NetBeans. You can use Eclipse. I'm going to use Notepad++ for demonstration today. And then we'll use the command window to compile it and run our program. So what I'm going to do, just to double check, and this is sort of a review from our last video, is I'm going to run my, wrong one, I'm going to check my environment variables. So right click on this window, go into Control Panel. I'm going to go to System. I'm going to go into Advanced System Settings and go to my environment variables and look at our system variables path. And to review what we were doing in here was we were making sure that our Java compiler is accessible no matter what directory we were in. So if we were in the C drive, if we were in C users, whatever directory path we were in, we want to make sure that we have access to this executable file, Java's compiler, executable compiler. And so it happens to be in this directory. And so we're good there. We can run Java from any path we're in. But I want to add Notepad++ so that I can also run Notepad++ no matter what directory I'm in. And Notepad++ is not in the path here. And so just to kind of re-emphasize what I'm saying, if I were in the command window and I typed in Java, sure enough, I can run Java. I don't get any nasty can't find errors. I'm just getting different commands that I can use to run Java. But if I were to type in Notepad++, because Notepad++ executable doesn't reside here in this directory. Windows can't find it. The operating system can't find that executable. So we're going to add that to our path here. So I'm going to click on New. I'm going to browse. And I want to show you something kind of quirky that happens. So here is our Java. I'm going to hit New. We're going to browse. And I'm going to browse to where Notepad++ executable file resides, which is in this program files 86. I'm going to go down to Notepad, blah, blah, blah. Oops, I passed it. Notepad++, there it is. So the executable file resides here in this directory. And so notice what happened here. And this is kind of a little quirky. I don't know if this is a bug or haven't taken the time to figure out why this happens, but notice that my Java path has gotten overwritten for some reason. And so when you add a new, sometimes it doesn't happen all the time. I'm not going to take the time to figure out why it happened now, but if it happened to you, what you can do is when you type in new, you can start something in here like C:, and then so you need to add my Java back in. So I could type in C:, and now if I hit browse and continue to find Java, which is in program files, and then go down to Java and STK 102. It's in the binary directory, the bin directory. Now I have both of them. So I don't know why it does it. I'm sure there's a good reason. I don't know. Yours may or may not did it, but if it did, now I have both of them in there and I'm good to go. So now I can type in Notepad++ from no matter where I am on the command line path, and I can also run the Java compiler from no matter where I am. And that's sort of a carryover from our last video. All right, so I'm going to go back into the command window, CMD, and I have my command window available. So now I want to start a new file. Well, I don't want to put it in this markl directory, so I'm going to make a new directory. And the way that you do that, I know that in Windows, like if you're in your Explorer, I'm currently in that C users markl path. We're in the synonymous here, but it's good practice to learn how to use the command line commands. So to make a new directory, I type in mkdir. Mkdir stands for make a new directory, and I'm going to call this one Java class. Okay, and hit enter. So now let's see. We should see that it showed up here. Java class, sure enough, it made it. There we go. And I want to get into that directory. So in the old days in Windows with your GUIs, you can just double click on Java class, but instead of double clicking on Java class, I'll just do it so you can see it there. So the synonymous here would be CD, change directory, and it's not case sensitive, so I could do it lowercase or uppercase. And then you'll see that I'm now in that directory. I didn't mean to hit the X, there we go. And then, so this is where I'm going to keep all my source files. And now I'm going to make a new directory to write our hello world, mkdir. I'm going to call this this project hello world, hello world, and then change directory to hello world. I guess I need to make sure I spell correctly as I'm typing. There we go. Incidentally, if you wanted to go back up a directory level up to the parent directory, I could type in CD for change directory, and ... says go back up a level. So now I'm back in the Java class. And I think I'll go back to hello world because that's where I'm going to keep my files. Okay, so now that I'm in this directory, I'm going to close this out because I think we've got the idea there. So now that I'm in this path, this is where I'm going to hold my first Java source code. And we'll ultimately put in our bytecode file there, but we'll see that in a second. And so now because I've typed in, I have included Notepad++ in my path, I should be able to type in Notepad++ here. So by running that, sure enough, Notepad++ ran. So, but another thing that I'm going to do instead of, I'm going to make my life even simpler, is I'm going to type in Notepad++, and turns out I can put a space and also put in the name of the file that I want to create. And I want to create a file called Hello World. Now, it's important that you name this file. I have to put the Java extension on it. That we name this file the same name and case sensitive to the class name that we'll use in our Java source code, and we'll see that in a minute. So I'm really making sure that good programming practice says in this case I should have a capital H, and we'll understand all this as we go along, but so my first letter needs to be capital, and I'm going to be case sensitive, so whatever I call this file name with the .java extension is what I'm going to use as the class name in my Java source code. So we'll see that. So that's really, really important. Otherwise things don't work. So now if I hit enter, Notepad++ should run. And in fact, Notepad++ says, hey, I don't have a file called Java. If I did, it would have opened up that file called helloworld.java. Shall I create one? Yes, let's create it. Okay. Something that you can do here, this is Notepad++ specific, but I think I'm going to go into language, and I'm going to set this language as Java, so that way Notepad++ can give me some kind of indicator. It's not super fancy or smart, but it's kind of smart, so it adds a little intelligence to it as we type things out. So now it's time to write our first code, and some of this we're just going to sort of take at face value as we go along. We'll learn more about it. But the first thing I need to do is create a public class. These are keywords, so we'll always be using these same keywords. We're going to create a class, which we'll learn about more as we progress. And remember, I told you it has to be called that same thing I named it. Oops, so I named it Hello World with a capital H and a capital W. So this class also needs to be Hello World. I don't put the .java on the end, just hello world, so this matches with what I call the file. And then we use what's called a code block, which is open and curly close braces. So notice Notepad++ helped me out and made sure that I had the closing brace. Okay, so we always start off in Java with a class that you can name whatever you want. And then within this class, we have another class, again, taking things at face value. For now, I'm not going to understand all these words, but I promise that you will eventually. So we have public static void, all important. Main has to be lowercase. Java is very case sensitive, so make sure that you adhere to the cases or pay attention. And then I have to write this capital string with open and closing braces, this word args, and then the closing parenthesis closed it for me. That's great. And then I need the open and closing braces because we're going to write a code block within this particular method, main method. We'll learn all of this as we go along. All right, so now we simply want to write something to the console, and the way to do that is system.out.println parenthesis hello world. And at the end of that parentheses, open and close parentheses, you have to have the semicolon. Okay, so this is our method block. We've got opening and closing curly braces. Incidentally, you can either have your opening brace at the beginning of this line or at the end of this line. It doesn't matter, but make sure, it is important that you have an opening and a closing and that they're all in, the appropriate places. In other words, this is a code block for this main method, and here's the opening and closing block that close this class. Okay. Now you can, Java doesn't care if I do not indent this. So if this whole block was the same indentation as the class, that would be okay. But from a coding practice, that would make it difficult to read, especially as we got much more code written. And so I'm going to ask you to do what we call practice good programming procedures, and that is to make sure you indent nested. This is a nested block that's nested within this block. So all the opening and closing statements are nested within the opening and closing statements of the parent. Okay, so this is a valid program. This little red indicator shows that I didn't save this, so I'm going to save it. You can leave this window open if you want. Doesn't really matter. We saved it, but I'm going to make it smaller so I can see around it. So here's my command window. So I'm going to type in dir, which says give me a listing of everything that's in this directory I'm in. And I can see that I have a file, not much in here except this file which I expected, called helloworld.java. Okay, sweet. So now it's time to compile our Java program so that we can run it. And to compile it, we type in the word Java C, and then a space, and then the name of the file that we want to compile, which is helloworld.java. Okay? And if everything goes smoothly, it did not. Why did it not go smoothly? Did I misspell something? It said it didn't go. See, I know I did something went wrong because I wrote, it says Java file not found, hello world. Oh, I misspelled the file. Okay, so let's spell it correctly. Hello world.java. Let's give that a whirl. Okay, so because nothing happened, all I got returned was this path. That means things were successful, believe it or not. Less is better here. And let's do a listing now, dir listing. And I can see two things now. I have the Hello World Java source code, and then I also have this .class file, which is the bytecode. So this is that code that is translated into an intermediate machine language that the JVM, the Java virtual machine, will then interpret depending on which platform the program is being run. So let's go ahead and run this. Now, in order to run our program, we type in Java, and then we type in Hello World. Now, Java, the program, is not looking for the .cls extension. It's looking for a class named Hello World in order to run. Boy, I'm challenged with spelling today, aren't I? So let's fix that, Hello World. So if I had written .class, it would be looking for a file called helloworld.class.class. So it's important to leave that off because this program with this argument, we're running a command, Java, with this argument, this command automatically is looking for the .cls class bytecode file. So now if I hit run, yay, Hello World seemed to work just fine. It printed what I expected it to print. Now let's, although we did see an error, let's do a compile error. Let's leave off this semicolon, which is an error. And I'm going to save it. The little red says didn't save it. So now I have to compile, and anytime you make a change, you're going to have to recompile it because we have to retranslate the code we changed into bytecode. So I have to run it again. I can just use the arrow up key from my keyboard, which will show me commands that I've already done before. But just for repetition, I'm going to type in the word Java C, make sure I spell it correctly, hello world, there we go, .java, so I'm going to compile it again. And this time, lo and behold, I'm getting a compile error message that's trying to give me some kind of clue to the best of its ability, and sometimes it's a little confusing trying to figure out what it's saying. In this case, it's pretty simple. It's letting me know that, oh, I expected on line 4 a semicolon at the end, and it even tries to give me the sentence that it feels like it's failing and lets me know where that semicolon is going to be in this. Oh yes, that's very helpful, thank you. And so now I should be able to run that. Now I warn you that not all messages are going to be this easy to interpret, and so the more that you pay attention to these and try and figure them out and feel less overwhelmed by them, the better off our lives are going to be. And I'll try to show these as we go along. But let's run that now. And remember, I have to run that code again. I'm going to use my arrow up key to, let's see, where was I? Java C. Okay, so now I want to recompile it again to make a fresh copy of that bytecode, and nothing happened, which in this case is good. And so now I should be able to run Java World and everything is working out fine. So that is our first Java program. We are taking a lot of things at face value, but we're starting to see about good indenting, good practices that we're going to start implementing. And we have run our code from the command line with command line arguments, with command line commands, and then command line arguments. So we will also do a video on doing this in NetBeans, just to give you a comparison.